Hi, everybody. This is day 1088. Let me check on Facebook if everything is working. We're burning the midnight oil. We have breaking news. It looks like everything is working. Is my sound working? Yep. Okay, I'll turn that down. Okay, so this is 1,088 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And it, you know, the things that we're learning behind the scenes that we're not at liberty to say because we have an alliance now, we have intel, we have an alliance within Fort Bliss, um, from security, from officials, from whistleblowers, and we're getting intel. We have intel. We're getting more and more intel every day. Sometimes I think it's more intel than what Major General Eisenhower is getting. Um, and we're updating him. And we wrote him a letter today, an email. Rob sent off an email to him today. And I can read portions of it to everybody because it's very important for everyone to understand this case, what is going on, the immense cover up of the murder of Richard Halliday. Okay, the extremes that our DOD went to, starting at a lower level, working its way up, because you remember that I believe it was July 5th that the DOD had to admit that they had Vanessa Guillen's remains. And it was ugly. It was very ugly. And this was right after Austin Hawk. Very ugly. Which was right after Enrique Roman Martinez's head that was chopped off with a hatchet, his hair pulled out, his eyes gouged out, had rolled up on shore. This is right after Vanessa Guillen, the whole battle for justice, for righteousness, um, for righteousness that the Guillen family had to fight for, to find their sister, right, their loved one, their daughter, their soldier. And of course, Caleb Smither, which there seems to be good news in Caleb Smither's case. I haven't talked to his mother, but I saw a post that I shared. I believe I shared it. I hope I did anyway. That Senator Ted Cruz is helping to take some action to get justice in Caleb's case. So pray for them. Pray that that really comes true. And of course, pray that if they have success, then so many other cases, I believe, will be helped, including our own case, by their success. So everything has a karma. Everything is related. And so I'm really praying for them. In our case, uh, when Vanessa Guillen's remains were found, this is what we believe. Okay, things had gotten so out of control because of so many soldiers being beheaded, being brutally murdered. I mean, so much dereliction of duty, so much retaliation of whistleblowers. And Richard's case is bad. Yeah, it's bad. And it got worse. See, they had bad karma. They had bad intentions. They were up to no good, and that up to no good put them in fear. They were in fear because they panicked. They were in panic mode. And I believe Clem Coward was in panic mode. And I believe other generals there were in panic mode. And I believe McConville was in panic mode. And they had to find a general that would try to clean up this mess, try to cover up this mess. And that was, of course, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. He was and is implicated in this case now for being, I don't know what you would call it other than so evil, so cold blooded, to cover up and think that that was helping our country, thinking that would help our military, that would help our soldiers to cover up what happened in our son's case. But that is exactly what we believe has totally happened, because we believe we have confessions. We believe, and we do, we have confessions. We have key witness to confessions in the foul play against our son. We have a long record of retaliation against Richard without cause. Okay, without any just cause, so it's a retaliation for unjust cause, right? So we have long history. Now they have the military officials, HR, I believe, HR, who would scrub Richard's file, who would sanitize Richard's file, because they don't want people to know, or if this goes into a congressional inquiry, they don't want Congress to know when they look over Richard's file that he has this long history of being retaliated against, that he was given an unjust field grade Article 15 with maximum punishment and then more punishment added on to that. Okay? That they set him up to be bullied, that they set him up to be mentally tortured, that we even have evidence that they were trying to manipulate this whole file, this whole narrative, to fit a profile that Richard had committed suicide. But they couldn't quite do it. And we have multiple pieces of evidence that shows that is what was going on. And so when Richard did not commit suicide himself, they wanted to try to manipulate the foul play, the murder of our son, to look like a suicide. And we believe that. That's our allegation against General McConville, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. I would say Major General Clem Coward. I would say General Garrett. And of course, you have the senior NCOs. And there's probably more. I would say Lieutenant Colonel Roddick, Michael Roddick, plays a big part in this, and more and more. So I believe that people were placed into our path to create a narrative, to sway us away from the truth and test us, test us, or yeah, or try to do some psychological operations against us, the asymmetric warfare tactics that they used against us in many different ways to try to get us to forget our son, to not look into uh, the environment surrounding our son, and leading up to his disappearance, and of course, uh, murder. We believe our son has been murdered. At this point, 1088 days. Yes, and today we have breaking news because today, okay, on day 1088, I believe it's 1088, but it's also July 18th, 2023. Um we believe which is getting close to 3 years. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that, y'all, until just now. I didn't even think about it. It just hit me. This is how, yeah, and just, it's going to be 3 years. Wow. Okay, so today, let me read you parts of the letter that we sent to Major General Eisenhower today, um, because we wanted to provide him with an update of the retaliation and the obstruction of justice against a key witness in this case. And we provided the date of the retaliation, who signed off on the retaliation, the deficiencies of the uh, the measures, the actions taken against one of our key witnesses um, in this case, and how that is really hurting our um, our justice, our pursuit of justice for Richard, and that's no joke. So I'll regroup in a minute. I still have this thing in my head that July 23rd is going to be 3 years. Wow. Okay, so let's get back on track. According to the information that we have, the actions taken against that are clearly retaliatory. Okay, you can say, oh, the alleged retaliation. No, they're and we can say that. We said that in the letter. These alleged, but we clearly see them as retaliatory against one of our key witnesses, um, to prevent justice, due process in our son's case. And this is this is unheard of, you know. And it is a security breach on every front. This is just the standard operating procedures of the security breach on Fort Bliss. So you have a 14-year-old girl living in the barracks, but you have actions taken without any kind of packet, without any kind of investigation being done for these negative actions against a key witness in the pursuit of justice in Richard's case. You have our witnesses, CID, FBI, Fort Bliss command complaint that was filed over a year ago about the security breach, about the leaking from CID Special Agent Tavita Nusa, tampering with files. And he's a former CID Special Agent, okay? He's been disciplined since then, okay? Major General Clem Coward has been disciplined. Lieutenant Colonel Roddick has been disciplined. And there's many more. So I'm making a list with all the specifics of all of the people in Richard's chain of command that have been disciplined because of our son's case, which also does not fit the narrative that they were trying to spew at the beginning of our search for Richard, which was, very late in the game considering. So they should have had their ducks in a row um, if they were pursuing the truth, but they weren't pursuing the truth. And that's why everything became very chaotic. And there were so many breaches in security on Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe's Fort Bliss. And now it's become Major General James Eisenhower's Fort Bliss security that has all of these breaches. And it's going to get even better with our breaking news as better, not better, worse. It's going to get even worse for you um, when you hear the breaking news that I just posted. You might already have read it. So, if the CID, and remember there's other conflicts of interest within the CID there on Fort Bliss. We have an El Paso police complaint whistleblower that El Paso Police Department, doesn't even answer us for about Leilani Hart, claiming that she is controlling Fort Bliss CID's office. That's a huge complaint. And then with Jay Paulin and her husband James Hart and Ron Steig and this little group, these groupies, this little group that clearly, how can they not know about the child pornography in Leilani Hart's home? How can they not know about the 7-year-old uh, being sexually assaulted, that means raped, in Leilani Hart's master bedroom by multiple members of her family? How can they not know about uh, about the incestuous relationship that First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, which is a former, okay, Dallas Hart was engaged in while he was serving as platoon leader on Fort Bliss with Richard Halliday, right? How can they not know? Because she put in a complaint. She put in a notarized affidavit confessing to all of this, okay? The day before Richard went missing, which is interesting. There's some interesting things about that. So there is this breach of security with these kind of relationships, these close relationships with Marlon Soto, with Tavita Nusa, with Leilani Hart, with James Hart, with Jay Paulin, with Ron Steig, and others, right there in the CID where Richard was going to put in complaints about the criminal activities in his unit. So where do soldiers go to that want to be whistleblowers? Do when they see something, they want to say something about fraud, waste, and abuse, right? And criminal activity. Where do they go? Where are they supposed to go? They're supposed to go to the very criminals. It's coming out of the CID because we have information that Richard's foul play, the foul play on Richard, the bodily harm done on Richard, was greenlit by the command. Now, that's scary stuff. That's scary stuff. That means that command are also involved in these criminal activities on Fort Bliss. Okay? And what's scary is you have General McConville covering, and you have Major General, now Lieutenant General, Sean Bernabe covering, getting a star for it, for covering for this kind of green lit of a foul play of bodily harm done to a whistleblower, where the CID on Fort Bliss is compromised. Uh, and it's not an organized compromise. It's pretty messy. It's pretty messy because there's a battle in there of your souls, you know? When you're that compromised, there's a battle in there with your soul. So, drugs come into play, dark glasses come into play, um, uh, complaints to the CID that get notarized come into play, and relationships get very strained. So it gets ugly because not only is there criminal activity, but don't forget that Tavita Nusa and Leilani Hart were also in an intimate relationship while they're married to other people, which is illegal. Okay, that's illegal. So when exactly, exactly. Yes. Okay. So I'm looking at comments while I'm trying to. Good evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your prayers. That's how they operate. Sadly, yes. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up in this letter, that my husband also added in, was the security breach of not only Tavita Nusa, but also with Nadal Baim. Because not Nadal Baim, who says he's with the FBI man, right, had information from a lieutenant colonel, he told us, right? His son-in-law is Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugad, former, I don't even think he's there anymore either, um, in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM at that time, while we were there, while Richard was there. This is the G3. This is operations. This is a breach in security. Of course, it's a very sad thing when the father-in-law, who has a record, right? But I'm very, it's such mixed emotions because there's a gratefulness that he did come out and speak out and give us the CCTV footage, and that the cashier, who will be forever grateful for to, um, spoke out on a video boldly, testifying to what she had heard from Nadal Baim, that he had claimed to be with the FBI, um, that he is an employee of the FBI, as well as the father-in-law of a Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, and that Richard's remains were being sought in multiple locations, and that confused the cashier. How can that be? Because he also told her that the FBI were looking in Mexico for Richard's remains, and they found him. They found him, and he's dead, his remains. And shh, shh. And this happened on the 26th of October, 2020. Okay, that he walked into the Dollar General. The fact that Baim had insider knowledge and made references to Richard's status and whereabouts, knew this information, that we then called, and this is another security breach, we then called the State Department there in Juarez, Mexico, and he confirmed that the FBI were indeed looking for Richard's remains in Juarez, Mexico. And so it's, I mean, your heart breaks, right? When you see that there is this break of integrity at this kind of level on Fort Bliss, in the G3 of 32nd ADCOM, in the FBI, right? And then you're also grateful to it because if that didn't happen, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know because we wouldn't find this is what's so disheartening. This is the emotional roller coaster because where is Richard's first lieutenant, right? Platoon leader. Where is the captain? Where is the lieutenant colonel? Where is the colonel? Where is his chain of command? Where is the CID being forthright with us? We have the State Department telling us, but they were covering up the fact, in my opinion, from what everything that I know, that they had found Richard's remains in several locations, including Mexico, and they were covering it up because they wanted to keep their lucrative jobs. There was just, it was already shaken up, right? The DOD was already shaken up because, and right in the middle of it, y'all, it hadn't even been finalized because it took months, right? So in the same month that the fan was getting very, very dirty, Richard goes missing and they find out. They find his remains. They find his remains. They find his remains. He's been dismembered. He's been murdered. And they have confessions. And then, where's the family? They're so worried about helping their other family members because of the whole COVID mess. They took advantage. They didn't contact the family. They didn't tell us he was a whistleblower. They just did not tell us even who Nadal Baim was. We had to find this all out. They did not, square away the unit, flag the unit, do what they were supposed to do. No, they did the opposite. They did what you would have to do in order to cover up and make this very difficult to get to the truth. They did everything to make this difficult, and they're still making it difficult. So, which leads me to my breaking news. And the breaking news is, let me get to it. Is what happened today. So I know it off the top of my head because I just wrote all this stuff out um, with help, um, which I'm very grateful for. But so today, what happened is an official went in to be a whistleblower, is also a witness, it, also a witness in Richard Halliday's case. Okay. Um, and went into the JAG, Fort Bliss JAG office today. Spoke to, I can give you the rank, a major. They're having some trouble, you know. There is, of course, it's summertime, so there's a changeover and everything. But he spoke to a major to report his uh, whistleblowing concerns, uh, huge concerns uh, of the deficiencies, of the retaliatory nature of actions that were taken against a key witness in Richard Halliday's case. okay, to stonewall Richard Halliday's case, which means they're denying us due process. They're denying us justice. Okay, and so he walked in from the report that I was given. He went to JAG today to be a whistleblower, to give a report on the deficiencies of the actions taken against a key witness in Richard Halliday's case. And these actions were taken, ordered without a packet. Okay? And that's what he was reporting. There was no proper investigation. If there's no packet, there's no proper investigation in order to order negative actions against a person, an individual, right? And so in his career, he had never seen anything like it. So he wanted to report it. Report actions taken against a key witness in Richard Halliday's case without a proper investigation packet. So that, okay, so what did he meet with? He met with fear and trembling. Fear and trembling. The major refused to take the report, to acknowledge and address this report that an official was standing in front of him, giving to him. He refused to take it. So, so what that does is it puts liability on the Fort Bliss JAG, on Major General Eisenhower. The implications are that the JAG, the Fort Bliss JAG office, is working outside, operating outside of the law. Okay, that's what this means. And that's why there has been a stonewalling, a sabotaging of justice in our son's case. And what did he cite? And I'm trying to speak a little bit legal. I'm not very legal, but I'm learning it. I'm learning it because that's the position they have put us in. But what did they cite? What reason did the JAG officer give for refusing to acknowledge, to accept these reported deficiencies, the ordering of negative actions against an individual without a packet, without any kind of without the regular SOP, the standard operating procedure, to do an investigation and to allow the individual to respond to whatever allegations were levied to back up these negative actions. So justice was that is unlawful. That was outside the law. But what is really outside the law is that they did not accept this report. And what did they cite? Fear. Fear. They are fearful of bringing this to Major General Eisenhower. They are fearful and hesitant. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't bring this to Major General Eisenhower. What? Is he afraid of retaliation himself? Is this how our military works? Is just one bully after the other? one bully after the other being taking out retaliatory measures against one another inside the military that we give everything to, that they will have everything that they need, tools that they need to defend our Constitution, to defend our people, to defend our land, and also to have a very efficient military for the defense of our country. I mean, we give them everything. We have $1 trillion military. We have the most expensive military, right, of any country. And yet, it's one big bully inside there. Uh, it goes to show you, it proves to you that when I call out the 44 four-star generals that are clearly servicing foreign and domestic enemies instead of defending our country, I think it corroborates what I have been saying month after month after month. Because we are being denied due process. We are being denied justice for Richard, to finding the truth for Richard. That they asked me at the very beginning, do you want to hear about your son? And I said, yes, I am ready to hear about my son. They don't want us to hear about our son. They don't want to hear about the circumstances and the murder of our son and the cover up about the son, our son, their soldier. That's what's going on here. So now we have the JAG at Fort Bliss, libel. Now we have to address this, right? One more thing to address, because we were given other information recently that we are in the middle of addressing that is absolutely denies us justice, denies us due process, and it's so bad. And thank you for the tip. Thank you for the lead for that. We will be addressing it. We are getting legal counsel on that to help us address. So we do have now an alliance. And in that alliance, we do get legal counsel, which has been very helpful to us lately. So we do get Team 5 Richard Halliday is expanding. It's expanding in a good way. And that's why we're getting the intel. That's why we have boots on the ground. And that's why these live streams are so important, because we're not getting the media help yet. One day we will, but right now we don't have the media help. I'm the media. I'm the acting media. Team Find Richard Halliday. We have been made the investigators because the CID is compromised. Even CID Quantico compromised. So this puts Major General Eisenhower in a corner. When JAG is compromised, when CID is compromised, he has security breaches, numerous security breaches on his installation. Then he needs to absolutely address this case. And the more that we get out, the more he's going to have to address it. And it's going to break, and it's going to be ugly. But you see, they should have dealt with it when they had found Richard's remains. They should have dealt with it when right after they found Vanessa Guillen's remains, and then they found Richard's remains, because we have not just Nadal Baim, the FBI employee, saying that they found Richard's remains. We have others. We have other testimonies. We have other information. And with leaders like this, who needs enemies? Because they're not fessing up to what we know, what we have, with where the evidence is pointing. And I will tell you this, you're going to find out in the coming days that Richard did a remarkable thing. And that every smear that was levied to tarnish his character will be debunked. Will be debunked. And it's going to be a little shocking too, because he was retaliated against, retaliated against, retaliated against. And this was a concerted, premeditated effort to do him harm mentally and then physically, and in between a little physical too. So it's all going to come out. He absolutely blew the whistle numerous times, and I should read that too. I should read that. Okay, so this is just the CPS complaints, the Child Protective Service complaints. Starting January 2020, and we have the rest of the dates of these allegations, of these complaints that Richard was reporting. And he reported first that there was instances of child endangerment, physical abuse, and neglect involving specific children. And he expressed a deep concern for their safety and well-being, urging swift intervention. And then later, he went back, he made another complaint. Boleyn confirms that Richard made these complaints. CPS has confirmed that Richard made these complaints. So Richard reported allegations of criminal activities, including child exploitation, trafficking, and drug-related offenses. These complaints implicate individuals. He named names, y'all, and believed to be involved in illicit activities that posed a direct threat to the safety and welfare of children. So this absolutely explains why Leilani Hart, if Richard was reporting on her household and the illicit activities in her household with this child pornography, if this was the case, if this is the allegations, it would explain why they wanted Richard's file, why they wanted to tamper with the evidence, because he had sex videos that he turned in. This explains so much of this, and why they were so angry with him, because these are serious crimes, and why she wanted to try to wash her hands of it by confessing on the 22nd of July, 2020, maybe giving her whistleblower status. I don't know. I don't know if she has whistleblower status. But she did make those complaints. She did have it notarized. We talked to the notary public. We do know that the extent of her power within the CID, with her husband's power, with his connections. We even had those connections allowed to go to the military police guard mount and smear Richard groundlessly, unjustly, to add to the cover up. And we heard that from Anthony Swafford, a military police there that was persuaded um, by what he heard at the guard mount. And that's too bad. That's too bad because then he messed up. He messed up legally because every soldier has a right to be found. And he worked against um, the search for Richard. This is a military police right there on Fort Bliss. So the third allegation that Richard made was expressing frustration with the CPS for their lack of intervention. And let me tell you, I absolutely can corroborate that the CPS in El Paso does not do their duty. They have not honored their FOIA with us. They have strung us along, which I think is a huge crime. To string along, give us Richard's CPS complaints. And so when we received this lead that Richard expressed frustration with the CPS and the lack of intervention, we absolutely said we could corroborate that because he wanted the CPS to take action on his previous complaints. And he even urged them the need for immediate attention to safeguard the affected children. The affected children. And we know now that El Paso, especially Fort Bliss, had a real problem with safeguarding children because out of the emergency intake center right there on Fort Bliss, led by the admirals, 85,000 children, minors, are unaccounted for. Where are they? Where are they? So that corroborates what Richard was reporting on. And so I'm going to be posting his CID complaints. And, you know, we're working very hard to put the timeline together. It's very sensitive, y'all. It has a lot of sensitive information. And I really want to release it all. I'm so sick and tired of these games. I want to put out this information. I want it to be swiftly verified or, denied with a packet. Like, let's have a packet of investigation. Let's see it. Let's let the American people see what they're paying for when it comes to the CID, when it comes to the command, when it comes to our volunteer sons and daughters. We need to hold them accountable, and then the only way we can do that is to put the cards on the table. All of this, I have a secret. This game, I have a secret. It is so... Shh. Why is it a secret? We pay them. They are our defense. And this, I have a secret, and all of the injustice, all of the retaliation is hurting our soldiers in secret, which is hurting our defense. And then the people in this country don't get that information. They think they have the biggest, baddest military, and yet it is being weakened and servicing foreign and domestic enemies. And the American people are taken for a ride. We need to have transparency in all of this. and hold these leaders accountable. We can't give them an inch because they have proven that they can't be trusted with the most valuable asset in this country, which is our volunteer sons and daughters. They can't be trusted. So we need to, what I would, when I, as a parent, I call it tomato staking, which means it's full transparency. We're going to be right next to you watching every move you make. And it needs to start out with a lot of arrests, including General McConville, including these 44 four-star generals and admirals that have betrayed us, and clean up our military. Clean it up. Take these uniforms off of these really domestic enemies. I was called a domestic enemy because I'm a grandmother going to January 6th with a pocket constitution. But no, these 44 four-star generals and admirals are the domestic enemies. Clearly. What else do we need to see before we call for a cleanup of our military? When we have a country that no longer wants to serve in the military, it's not because the hearts are not willing of our countrymen. It's because they know that the enemy is in charge of our military. They know. They see it in the Navy. They see it in the Air Force. They see it in the Marines. They see it in the Coast Guards. And they see it in the Army. And that's why we have a problem with our sons and daughters wanting to enlist to serve in the military. And, the problem with all of this is we're paying, and our children are paying, and our grandchildren are paying, and our future is paying for these criminals to serve foreign and domestic enemies. And as they do that, to destroy mentally and physically our volunteer sons and daughters. And that's exactly, I cannot tell you how much evidence I have of what they were trying to do with Richard, what they were trying to do with other soldiers, what I've heard from other families, that they train them to suicide, they train them to PTSD, they absolutely are trying to destroy our military from within. We have a Trojan horse. And today, I'm going to tell you this officer, this official that went in to talk to the officer in JAG, he had the same rhetoric after he left that I have right now. Oh my gosh, they are operating outside of the law. They have betrayed us. They are operating outside of the law, and there needs to be arrests, and they need to be those beautiful uniforms. Those beautiful uniforms need to be taken off of them. They need to be stripped of their titles, of their stars, of their stripes. They have betrayed this land. And it's not that I am vengeful. It's that our future is at stake here. The future of our volunteer sons and daughters are at stake here. The future of the defense of this country is being risked, is really being attacked from within. And this is it's like open war is before us, whether we like it or not. We have to take these measures. And and people can whine that they are losing their lucrative jobs. But we're going to lose our country we're going to lose our sons and daughters, more of them and more of them. And not only are we going to lose them physically, but we're going to lose them mentally. Because if the military is not bothering to train our sons and daughters to love our country, to love the land, to love the people, to love the Constitution, to have something to fight for, then we're done. Where is that esprit de corps? My dad was just hammering that in. And, I didn't get it at first. And then he kept hammering it. It's about esprit de corps. Where is the Medal of Honor ethos? Where is the esprit de corps? We have no country if our guidon is not being respected. If our leadership is not being respected, and it is not being respected. They are not being respected. Because you have the JAG today saying they do not want to take or acknowledge a report of deficiencies against a key witness in Richard Halliday's case because he is afraid. He's hesitant to tell Major General Eisenhower. That's no respect for Eisenhower. Eisenhower is not wielding respect, loyalty, duty, integrity, selfless service, personal courage. You see, all of those are a failure in that one act of that JAG officer today. And this is an officer, okay? Where is his respect for the general? Where is his loyalty to the general? No, all he cites is fear and hesitancy. And all the creed, all of the fine narrative that we're given about our military and our leadership, the loyalty, the duty, the respect, the selfless service, the honor, the integrity, the personal courage, all of that is totally broken. And they're working and operating outside of the law. So they're liable. So that's our breaking news today, and I think it's huge. I think it's really huge. And it's just one huge thing after the next. And I have more huge news that's coming. And I'm going to tell you it has to do with confessions. I'm just, how do I break it to everybody? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for our representatives. They're supposed to be representing us to take action in this, to have a congressional inquiry in this. That Judge Robert Shook, let's talk about Judge Robert Lee Shook. We have sent 2 letters, and I'm going to send another one because we've given him ample amount of time to answer us. And he presided over Richard's case, things in Richard's case, and he could answer so many questions. And I think that, his license for not answering us needs to come into question, because he can answer so many of the questions because he presided over so many aspects of our son's case. And we have the right to know. because it's not just our son's case anymore, it's also our case. So, yes, we first and foremost, we want answers to those questions that have to do in regards to our son's case. But then we also want answers in regards to our case. And they just kick the ball, they just string you along, they just drag you along. And I think that needs to be really addressed. Um, they need to be answering us in a timely fashion, because they say after so much time, then you don't have the right or whatever. Well, when they string you along, when they don't even notify you that your son is missing, when they don't even tell you that your son is a whistleblower, when they don't even tell you who Nadal Baim is, when they don't even tell you what's going on um, with the security breaches on Fort Bliss, when they don't even tell you about their findings that need to absolutely be revealed to the public, when they do not use the media, even the PAO, to communicate with you, then I think that they need to be held accountable for that also. When they make you into the chief investigator of your son's case and they make you find out that foul play is involved. Because how long do they think that this was going to be held a secret? Shh, 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 right? That we would just go off and just uh so many families during World War II in Germany, I'm talking about in Germany, my knowledge of Germany, they did not know if their loved one was dead or alive, because they lost the war and everything was chaotic, and they didn't know. There were so many prisoners of war. There was German prisoner of war here in the United States, a lot of Louisiana, Mississippi. There were in the Russian prisons there, where my grandfather died, um, on the Russian front. And my oma, but families didn't know. And my oma was very grateful because she did get a letter, and she got my grandfather's wedding ring in the mail. And, that's pretty sad that that's what you're grateful for, just to be notified that you don't have to question, is he alive or dead? And there is no excuse. There is no excuse for General McConville, General Garrett, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, Lieutenant General Donna Martin, and Major General Clem Coward, and on, to cover up the status of my son. No excuse. This is Fort Bliss installation. This is not some kind of prisoner war camp or whatever. This is right there in the barracks of Fort Bliss. Lots of CCTV footage. I know there's all these rumors about the cameras and everything, that we're trying to get intel on too. And, why should we try to get intel on it? Why can't Major General Eisenhower level with us? And he could absolutely tell us in 24 hours the status of our son. Good, bad, or ugly. Good, bad, or ugly. And we already know the ugly. So we've made it easy for him. But see, the thing is, is there's going to be accountability. And Texas has the death penalty. And they're fighting for injustice. They're fighting for their right to be criminals and get away with it because they don't want to be held accountable. That's what's going on. I don't think too many doubt that, doubt what I'm saying anymore. Okay, thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you, Danielle, praying for justice. Thank you, Deliris. Uh, and thank you, Grace. Um, thanks for sticking with us for so long, 1,088 days. And, but this is what it takes. This is what it takes. There is no getting sick, right? There is no rest. There is no, um, regular life if you want uh, to demand accountability and the truth from a compromised government, compromised DOD. I mean, uh, because they have to be driven to do the right thing. Those aren't my words. Those are Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe's words. They have to be driven to do the right thing, to change their ways, to change their policies, their unspoken policies. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for coming on, and God bless you. And please share this information. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. And yeah, we're just very grateful and we love you. Bye bye.